Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We are in Season 2, Episode 6, Lost in Translation. And with a name like that, you might expect, and you would be correct to expect, that this is a Uhura episode. But it's not just a Uhura episode. It is, in fact, another James Kirk episode. And for the first 2 episodes that we've had James Kirk in the show, he's been an alternate timeline version of him. But this time, it is him. It is the James T. Kirk. For a lot of people, they've been like looking at like, what happens? What's the big moment where Kirk and Spock meet? And it's this episode, and I gotta say, it's just kind of a, oh yeah, hi, this is James T. Kirk meets Spock, and they handshake, and then they just sit down for a drink. You know, it's very non-momentous, but that's fine. There's no reason to think that their first meeting would have like any huge impact. It's totally fine for them just to meet. But Kirk is now the first officer on the Farragut, and the Farragut and the Enterprise are working on getting a deuterium refinery underway on the edge of Federation space. So Kirk comes over because he wants to see his brother, Sam. And Sam's actually kind of upset about James Kirk making first officer on the Farragut because he's now the youngest first officer in Starfleet history, and Sam's the older brother. So Sam's looking at his younger brother surpassing him on the career track and is feeling a little inadequate about that, especially because before James Kirk was the youngest first officer in the fleet, it was his dad, George Kirk, on the Kelvin, which you might remember from Star Trek 2009. The fact that they're both talking about their dad, I really kind of want them to bring Chris Hemsworth in for an episode. Obviously, I know it's not the same universe as, because like, you know, alternate timeline with the Star Trek 2009, but I still think it would be cool to just bring Chris Hemsworth back, put him in old man makeup, have him play Kirk's dad, and just for an episode. I think that would be fun. The main plot of this episode is that Uhura is starting to hallucinate. Like, she hears a signal that doesn't register on any of the instruments, so it's like just all in her head, but she starts like hallucinating things. Like, she starts hallucinating Hemmer, the chief engineer who died last season. She starts hallucinating like zombies on the ship and like dead bodies and all sorts of things. And at first they think that she just had some deuterium poisoning because that can cause hallucinations. But she points out that she started having, like, she heard the signal and started like hallucinating these things before she was exposed to deuterium when she went to run a communications diagnostic in the nacelle. And they start noticing that there's sabotage going on the deuterium refinery, and they find that there's somebody there who has been having the same kind of hallucinations. They've been going on for longer, and he's basically completely lost his mind. But Uhura, with the help of Kirk, they eventually figure out that it's actually like extra-dimensional beings who are like peeking into our dimension through the deuterium, and the deuterium refinery is harming them. So they are basically trying to use Uhura as a communications relay and using her hallucinations to try and, you know, impart the information that what they're doing is harming them. And I gotta say, it's a little silly how they come to this conclusion because it's all basically conjecture. It's all, they just put it together from the information that Uhura hallucinates when she could just be crazy. But they blow up the refinery purely based on her conjecture while working with both Kirks to like figure it out. And Star Trek sometimes has those silly resolutions where like the captain takes a chance on the hunch of one of the officers when the officer is acting highly erratic and like not like in a normal state of mind. For somebody who has been taken off duty because of her hallucinations, I don't think I would have made the call Pike made to just trust her that they have to blow up a deuterium refinery that they've been building. Like, I feel like a lot of resources went into that. You know, Pike tells Uhura, don't worry about it. I'll take, you know, the blame for everything. But I'm just like, should you have, like, taken that risk? Obviously, like, the way it's presented is that Uhura is correct. But there's enough ambiguity there that I don't know that that was actually... It's hard to tell if that would have been actually the right call. So I think that part of it was very silly. This episode has another instance of Star Trek not understanding how space works, because somebody gets blown out into space and we immediately see them ice over and freeze. And yes, space is very cold. The ambient temperature of the vacuum of space is like 3 Kelvin. The 3 Kelvin comes from the cosmic microwave background radiation. That's why it's not just absolute zero. But the primary ways that an object loses heat, there are 3. There is conduction, convection, and radiation. And conduction requires you to be in contact with a conductive material. Convection requires you to be in like a gaseous medium, and when you're out in the vacuum of space, you can't do conduction or convection, so you've only got radiation. And we are all radiating energy. That's why we show up on like infrared cameras, because our body radiates heat in the infrared spectrum. But that's a slow process. I think it could take like up to like 12 hours for a body jettisoned into space to actually freeze over. Like thermoses operate on, a vacuum for insulation. And so it's really silly that you blow something into space and the writers are like, oh, well, space is cold, so we'll have them freeze over immediately. And for something like Infinity War, when that happens to one of the bad guys that they blew out of the ship, it's like, okay, that's Marvel, it's just a comic book movie, it's whatever. But Star Trek at least tries to pretend sometimes to be aiming for more scientific accuracy. And so whenever they have somebody go out into space and immediately start freezing over, it really irks me. I know there's a lot of things in Star Trek that it's just fine to hand wave away. Transporters, they don't actually make sense whatsoever, but it's fine. The Universal Translator really doesn't make sense, but it's fine. Those are story conceits used to get things moving along. The transporter itself was invented out of necessity because it was cheaper to do that effect in the 60s than to film them landing a shuttle every episode, right? So I don't have problems with certain conceits like that, but when they take something that we actually know about, something that we actually understand, which is what the human body does when exposed to a vacuum, they should probably take note of what actually happens. Now, you will probably be dead within a minute of being exposed to the vacuum of space, but it won't be from being frozen. It will be because you will lose oxygen, I expect better from Star Trek. I know they've got scientific consultants for the scripts, and I don't know why this gets missed. I have to imagine it's one of those things where, like, the consultant brings it up when they read the script. Oh, no, they wouldn't actually freeze. And they're like, yeah, but the audience would expect them to freeze, so we're just going to do that anyway. And it's like, make this a teaching moment, You can make them, like, have, like, their veins bulge out and stuff because of the lack of pressure, have their eyes go, like, bloodshot and stuff like that. There's ways to show the harshness of the vacuum of space on a human body without doing the icing over. So maybe next time, don't do that. But this is a really fun episode. I'm really liking Paul Wesley as Kirk. I think he is really good as Kirk. Like I said, the first time I saw him in season 1, I wasn't quite sold on him, but now I am. I really think that he is a good choice for it. It just took some time for us to see it. So here we have a scene where Nurse Chapel and Spock are playing chess. And also, yes, at the end of the last episode, after Spock and T'Pring took a break, Spock and Chapel hooked up. And so here they are playing chess and discussing whether they should report it to Starfleet. And she says she doesn't want to report it because she doesn't know what it is. And she kind of uses the idea of quantum superposition, Schrodinger's cat. She's like, if we tell Starfleet that we're having a thing, then we have to define what that thing is, and I don't know what it is yet. But that's not really the important thing with this scene. The important thing is this chess set. Because this is, as you can recognize, this is the Star Trek the tri-dimensional chess set. But it's not just any chess set. Guys, this is merch. This wasn't something built as a prop for the show. This is their $175 the tri-dimensional chess set that you can buy on StarTrek.com. And I know because my podcast co-host, Ari, from the Rest of the Both Worlds podcast, she bought this and then, like, gave it to me to use for a little bit, and I just, like, yesterday was able to get it back to her. But so I have played this. Actually, I have played a match with Demon Mama on this chess set. So I am intimately familiar with how it looks, and I can tell you that's what they did. They just took this off the shelf and put it in the set. And you know what? It's great, because, like I said, it's a $175 set, so it is a pretty quality build. It looks good on camera. I don't blame them for doing it. I just thought when I saw that, I'm like, they didn't make it special for the show. That's just the one they're selling. That's actually really funny. But yeah, I think this is a great Uhura episode, and I'm really looking forward to next week, guys, because next week we are getting the Lower Decks crossover. We're gonna have Brad Boimler and Beckett Mariner on the Enterprise, geeking out over everything next week, and it's an episode directed by Jonathan Frakes. So I imagine I will have a lot of things to say about that one. I cannot wait for it. But this is a great episode, guys. Check out Strange New Worlds if you haven't. It's really, really, really good. Probably the best Star Trek series of new Star Trek since 2017 when they started doing the streaming services, when they started with Discovery. I really think this is the best show that they've got. It ranks right up there with The Next Generation for me. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream these reviews every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.